Fact. Every child wanted to be a superhero growing up. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's a law to have a favorite superhero. It's why comic book characters from the Marvel and DC universes didn't die out when the comic books did, and instead evolved along with the new medias that were introduced to society. The thought of having a superhuman ability and being recognized as an idol has crossed countless of minds. But how would the concept be used in a child daycare aspect and a reality TV aspect, respectively? Also, which aspect is better for the superhero concept when you compare the two? Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Blade, and this is a cartoon collision between Total Drama Action and Total Dramarama. Okay, so this is another gimmicky type of video focusing on the Total Drama universe, but instead of focusing on the characters themselves, we'll focus on two specific episodes: Bad Guy Busters from Total Dramarama and Super Herald from Total Drama Action. I've been in a hero mood and a Total Drama mood lately from doing the TDP and watching Spider-Verse in theaters twice. So why not put the two together and have fun with it? In this cartoon collision, we will be focusing on how each episode uses the concept of superheroes in their respective plots. We'll also take a look at how the characters were used in this idea and the overall execution of each episode. Let's dive on into Super Hero. The episode begins at night with Justin, Duncan, and Harold leaving the craft services tent. While doing so, Duncan continues to mess with Harold as he does best, and Justin tells the two to knock it off. He then proceeds to try and form a guys' alliance due to the numbers advantage the girls have. Sound familiar? Because this is a copy and paste of the guys' alliance in the island. Now, there are a few differences, like Justin spearheading the idea instead of Duncan, and the guys in action are not necessarily very buddy-buddy, as the dudes in the island. While the boys were agreeing to terms, the girls themselves were having to deal with the aftermath stench of Courtney's and Lindsay's cheese factory adventure for the night. While the teens are resting up for their challenge tomorrow morning, let's take a chance to see how the day will be set up for Dramarama. We start off with Chef filing his taxes. Alright, first off, Chef, it's now 2018. 2019. Why do you have boxes upon boxes of receipts? Like, dude, you go online. Use a laptop. You can even use your phone. We have apps for literally everything. Or are you one of those folks who don't like to adapt with the times? You probably think it's 2006 with the BlackBerry. Get out of here with that nonsense. Izzy pops in, pestering him with all those innocent questions for our daycare teacher. Chef then tells Izzy to go find something else to do, and she says she's going to flush things down the toilet. I take a moment for Chef to realize what she's about to do and stops her to tell her that today is movie day, which made her excited. She still flushed things down the toilet anyways. We cut to the end of a superhero movie the kids were watching. Beth, Jude, Owen, and Izzy really enjoyed the film, and it gave Izzy the idea to play as superheroes, the Bad Guy Busters. In all honesty, I'm not really sure how to feel about the beginning of the episode. Compared to other episodes, this one seemed more toned down, which is a nice change of pace. However, I don't think starting off a video with taxes is something that would perk anyone's interest to watch it. I do understand that it's for the premise of a child trying to get attention of an adult doing something important. It does feel out of place with what's going to happen in the episode. When we cut to the exit of Chef's office, there are two weights that does stick out in this shot which make me feel, why wouldn't they have him doing some small weightlifting? Sure, it'll be out of the ordinary, but this is Dramarama we're talking about. It's anything but ordinary. The movie cut to the end was simple, to the point, and gave us the idea of what the episode will be about. With Izzy and her crew deciding to play as superheroes, it was cute and had that childhood fun feeling to it. While they get dressed up, we can go back to the teens and see what the challenge will be. The cast members got up very early in the morning after hearing a distressed screech by Maiden Chef. While the teens were looking around confused as to what is going on, Bat Chris swoops in for the save. But the cord attached to Bat Chris's back broke off and the two fell to the ground. Chris got up furious as ever at the producers for not making it more secure for him. When Courtney demands what this was all about, Chris snaps back at her saying he'll tell them when he feels like it. Then 2 seconds later he feels like telling them and goes back to his hosting ways. He explains that their challenge for the day will be based off the superhero genre. When Chris tells the cast to get dressed, Harold thanks Duncan for the burrito he stuffed in his pants as a free meal. Alright, I know breakfast is an important meal of the day, but there's a certain limit to what I will do to get it. But the burrito will regrettably be a big key for Harold later on. When the cast returned, Chris explained that they must use their imaginations to create their own superhero identity and superpower that will be judged. While doing so, the main villain Pythonicus will do everything to sabotage the heroes' process in creating their respective costumes. We get a nice little supervillain montage of Chef messing up the players' costumes without them looking. The montage was really sweet to see. It gives that nostalgic sense of those 1960s cartoons. It was a nice addition that got a couple of laughs out of me. After the montage was over, the cast is ready for their super identity to be judged. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and see what their young counterparts came up with by having their very own superhero intro. The Bad Guy Busters! This intro was just as cheesy, but extremely adorable when you see it. Every time when I see the transition between each member of the Bad Guy Busters, it never disappoints. The simplicity of the introduction of this newly formed squad gives me the sense of a realistic aspect of a kid's imagination. With Owen being Marshmallow Man, a hero that shoots marshmallows out of his mouth. Beth as B-Girl, a hero that stings you with toilet plungers. Jude as Dude Boy, a hero that chills with a fan. And Izzy as Super Donker. I put Super Donker, oh my god. And Izzy as Super Donkey, a hero with the strength of 10 donkeys. After doing the most epic poses, they're not sure what villain is out there to stop. So they decided to ask some other kids to play the villain role, but they got denied each time. What I like about the snippet is mainly the characters they asked to be their bad guy. If you haven't watched the counterpart episode, Harold? Oh my god, I'm gonna have a struggle with this. If you haven't watched the counterpart episode of Harold in TDA, Duncan, Courtney, and Harold play big roles in that specific episode. While for the Bad Guy Busters, they were more used as a minor cameo role to the time in action. When they think all is lost, Izzy has an idea for one more person to be their pretend villain. While they go to that person, let's continue to the judging of the teens' costumes. The introduction of the first superhero was pretty funny. They dragged it out a little bit with the slow camera movements, unnecessary lighting, and cheesy music, only to have an uninspiring reveal of Beth's costume. The cat, Dander Boy, stops the cheesy music being played on a boombox, and a disappointing Chris sighed and asked for her name and superpower. Beth claims to be Lumber Woman, with the ability to talk to plants. Boring. Next was Justin, who claims to be Timberman, with the ability to toss wood shavings? Woo! Then we start getting something more intriguing? With Harold swooping in as Captain Alberta, with the ability of the spicy burrito aftermath. Oh god. This impressed Chris a bit, even though it's not really sanitary. Duncan is up being the all-seeing eye with the ability to see into the future. Original. Next is Courtney, who claims to be the human cricket, whose ability is to hurt enemies with her deafening chirps, clearly being the best so far. Lashada claims to be Super Aqua Chick with the ability of water balloons. Finally, we have Lindsay claiming herself to be Wonder Woman. Courtney then interrupts saying that Wonder Woman already exists. However, Chris allowed for her to continue being interested with what she has. Wonder Woman's power is wondering a lot and travels the world in her invisible jet. With that, Chris gives her a full 10 points, giving her the win and an advantage for the next challenge. Courtney was furious with the results being unfair because of the lack of originality in her opinion. Chris retorted that he was the judge and his word is final. But Courtney started to storm off, Lindsay accused Courtney of stepping on her invisible jet, which costed her 2 points of her total score. Courtney tried to counter but was interrupted by Harold, who wanted a ride. When Lindsay accepted, she then asked everyone who wanted to ride on her invisible jet, and everyone raised their hand excitedly. This bit was so much fun to watch. The beginning of the scene reminds me of the beginning of the music videos of Smash Mouth's All-Star, with the teens going through a superhero audition setting and with the judges, i.e. Chris, not really being impressed until the end. While the beginning of the superheroes' introductions was lackluster at best, as they went on the designs and creativity became more impressive. Plus, the ending is the most wholesome you'll ever see Lindsay in any of the seasons she's introduced. The way how she unintentionally pushed Courtney's buttons was nothing but adorable. It's always a plus to see Courtney getting triggered, but to do it in such a way is well thought out. As I set up for the next challenge, we'll head on back to Dramarama and see who Izzy wants to ask to be their bad guy. It shouldn't come to a surprise that it would be Chef to be the next man up for the job. When they went to ask Chef, he was still busy getting his taxes done. When he tried to tell the kids to find someone else, the kiddos interrupted him to show their powers without realizing that they're messing up his progress. This made Chef furious and he yelled at them to leave his office. Before leaving, Izzy saw the pair of weights that was shown at the beginning of the episode. She quickly grabbed them and dashed out. Beth, Owen, and Jude were about to play on the slide, but Izzy called out to them to suit up due to a situation that occurred. When BDB showed up, Harold tells them that the Ferris wheel he was building was suddenly smashed into pieces. Izzy then proclaimed that this was the work of someone called the Smasher, so the bad guy busters went out to investigate the daycare attendees in question. I think the role that Izzy plays so far has been heartwarming to see. Her willingness to not give up on giving her friends a good experience being heroes is something to be admired by. It shows how much she cares about giving her friends the best opportunities to enjoy themselves. I also like how they use the bad guy buster theme as a use for the transitions to the crime scene. Harold's role as the victim was done very well, and the setup for the introduction of the mystery villain was nice too. As they start searching for the culprit, we'll go ahead and step into action for the next challenge. Each cast member has to complete a super obstacle course with the fastest time in order to win invincibility. This course consists of jumping over a building with a trampoline to assist them, saving a damsel in distress falling from a burning building, and walking along a power line during a bowling ball meteor shower. The first hero up will be Wonder Woman, with the advantage of shaving off 10 seconds of her time. Her performance was not so hot. She was pretty disgusted with the mattresses being used in the challenge, failed to cast the damsel, and got decked by a bowling ball, not being able to finish. Courtney enjoyed watching her fail, which, is great. Next man up is Captain Alberta, who was excellent in his run and enjoyed playing the role of the hero, even if it is grotesque. He finished the course with a time of 36 seconds. Of course, he took the time to challenge Duncan, and Duncan reminded him that he can still beat him up. We then get a quick montage of the rest of the cast, and out of the 5 contestants, only Courtney and Duncan were able to finish the course, with the former winning it all. This definitely was a solid scene. It's pretty straightforward when it comes to the animation. It doesn't wow you, but it gets the job done. What makes it pop is certainly the interaction between the characters in this bit. Sadly, I will say that the montage limits what other interactions could be. I could understand having a montage for Lashana, Beth, and Justin, considering they are not the focus on this episode. But seeing Duncan's and Courtney's runs in full would have given us more to see, especially since Duncan has a personal grudge with Harold, and Courtney taking Harold's win. As the cast winds down, let's get back into the daycare to see how the investigation is going.
Nope, don't look at me!
Wasn't me! Nope. Nuh-uh.
Yeah, I figured as much. With none of the children admitting to the crime, the last person they can question is Chef himself, who is still working on his boxes of receipts. Izzy then tells the gang to go on ahead and she'll smash up later. We then get a quick confessional of Jude and Beth, with Jude saying that the culprit is right under their noses.
Oh.
Ew.
Nope. Just a bat in the cave.
We're not gonna talk about that. We cut back to Chef kicking them out once again, denying that he was the smasher. As the crew was wondering what to do next, a huge crash and scream was heard in the distance. We then see Courtney in a panic as she became the next smasher victim. Izzy came in late in the scene and saw what had occurred. She asked Courtney if she could identify the culprit, but Courtney told her that she wasn't able to get a good look. Izzy still insisted by asking her to close her eyes and draw what the villain looked like. For those who are aware of who it is, I will say that the hints were obvious but subtle for the most part. Courtney's part as the victim was pretty straightforward to keep the plot going, unlike the one we see from Harold, which isn't a knock considering the time they have to work with. While Courtney reveals who the Smasher is, let's head over to the cast who are gearing up for the awards ceremony. We get a quick snippet of the guys taking off their gear, and it begins with Harold complaining about not being able to get invincibility. Duncan tells him to shove it as usual, and it reminds him about the girl's situation. He asks which girl they want to can, and Justin immediately suggests Courtney getting the boot. Duncan quickly reminds Justin that she has invincibility and then suggested Lashana instead. Harold was furious with the idea of kicking off his beloved and reminded Duncan that they were supposed to have an alliance. Duncan says that he prefers the bros before hoes stance and threatens Harold to do as he's told. Harold didn't buy it. We cut to Lashana, Lindsay, and Beth in the showers having a discussion on who to boot. The girls were frustrated that Courtney won invincibility again. However, Beth came up with booting Duncan for being the strongest guy right now, and it's an elimination that affects Courtney as well. The girls agreed, but they also know that they need at least one more potion to get the guaranteed boot. Beth has an idea on who to talk with and walks out. The next transition, we see Duncan going over to Courtney to ask for help in removing Lashana from the game. She was hesitant at first, but was won over with Duncan bringing up the fact that the girls are targeting her, and that her winning streak will not last long. Our final cut before the ceremony was to Harold looking out his window. Beth caught his attention and asked him to vote Duncan, and that 3 votes are to his name. Harold informed her that he's gonna do that anyways. Then for some reason Beth gave another BF fact, but their conversation was interrupted by Courtney. Courtney then tells them that the girls are planning to take each guy out, starting with him. Harold was skeptical of the information and asked why she told him. She replies that after seeing his efforts, she is willing to take him to the final 4. However, to get the deal, he must vote for Lashana. Harold refused to vote for her, but Courtney reminds the bad things Lashana has done in the past to him and emphasizes that it's either her or him. Okay, I will say I have quite a number of mixed feelings about this. These scenes really tells you there's a lot of fragile loyalties throughout the final 7. As Harold mentioned before, he and Duncan did agree to have an alliance with Lashana. Plus, they were all teammates before the merger. An episode later, he was ready to dump it off so he could go back to the old dudes alliance strategy. While Justin, who started off seeming to have a key role in this episode, really looked like a sheep for a majority of it, outside of suggesting wasting a vote on Courtney. The girls, on the other hand, were consistent on who they wanted out. Beth played a solid role as well, showing that she is willing to be the brains of this trio. Courtney and Duncan obviously still has ties, and then Harold. Obviously, from the title of this episode, he was going to play a big role in this decision, for good reason. Out of all 7 contestants, he is the most vulnerable player. However, comparing to the discussions with Courtney and Beth, it should be a no-brainer on who he'll vote for, right? Duncan has been pestering him in both seasons, while Lashana did break his trust for a reward. That's all she did. And who would you rather trust between Courtney and Beth? Guess we'll find out later. Going back to the daycare, Courtney begins drawing on what the suspect looks like. After she finished, the culprit was an Izzy with swole biceps? The busters questioned where Izzy was, and Izzy was quick to use a smoke bomb for her escape. When they caught up to her, the BGB saw the reveal of Izzy's evil persona, the Smasher. She went to smash her way outside to continue her mayhem. The busters went after her, but she was able to outsmart the trio. They meet up one more time inside to find the Smasher ready to take out the daycare's most important items. Each time a buster tries to stop her alone, they were not able to get it done, and resulted in an item getting smashed. When all that is left is the TV, the busters use their powers in unison to defeat their foe. This was incredibly fun to watch. The amount of action they put into this does give a more toned down version of the Izzy we know in the original. I'm horrible because I think her sending Cody into the sky was the funniest event in this episode. Her villainous actions were executed with grace, and it was the right amount of chaos that helps me understand what is going on. The final confessional, where Izzy's saying that she was proud of her friends figuring out and defeating her, put a stamp of this episode being the strongest episode for her. With her coming up with the idea of playing superheroes and no one willing to play the villain role for them, having the willingness to change sides in order to keep the game going shows a lot of nobility on her end. When Chef came by to tell the kids it's time to leave, he was shocked with the amount of destruction that occurred in the daycare. Izzy thanked him for letting her borrow the weights, and Chef was not happy about it. The Busters reflect on what was a fun day for them and are willing to play again the next day. We get a final shot of Izzy introducing a new villain named the Lava Queen. And that was how we end the Bad Guy Busters. Now let's wrap up the ceremony to see who will be sent home by the limousine. I want to say very quickly that out of all the elimination ceremonies I've seen, the Gilded Chris Award ceremony has always been the most enjoyable to me. The introduction to it is a breath of fresh air for me when I first saw it. Plus, it gives the sense of importance that any ceremony needs. It's the most unique when it comes to the item being used for being safe for the week with the Gilded Chris. So, getting into who receives them, the first two announced were Courtney and Justin. Then the next two were Beth and Harold, who looked more disappointed when his name was called. The next one was Lindsay, who looked happy with receiving hers, which left a confident Lashana and a slightly worried Duncan. In the end, it was Lashana getting the boot. While Duncan gets the final Chris, Harold admits his guilt for voting for Lashana instead of Duncan, realizing he made a mistake to believe in Courtney, which I'm about to grill hard. Lashana forgives him because she knew she wronged him in the past. On her way out, she tells Harold to defend himself and beat out Duncan. Of course, Duncan continues to pick on him. Chris pushed him aside to end off Superhero. Oh my god, that title. While the elimination was obvious, it still rubbed me the wrong way. How in the world can Harold vote for Lashana when all she did that affected him was lie earlier in the season to get the reward herself, while Duncan over here has been picking on him since day one of the islands? Not to mention he was ready to break the alliance they had with Lashana quickly, showing that he wasn't loyal at all. This also brings out the flaws of the Mary Sue and Courtney with being able to manipulate Harold so easily, especially since she's proven time and time again she's untrustworthy and incredibly selfish throughout the entire game. If I were to trust Beth's or Courtney's word, I would go for Beth in a heartbeat. There was too much inconsistencies on all parties and it just ends up being a head scratcher. So when it comes to the hero concept, both episodes used it in different approaches. Super Harold only used it as more of an underlying gimmick for a plotline that was more important in trust. Still, it was a fun ride considering the creativity in their identities was good and the interactions of the characters were enjoyable as well. However, the ending of the episode was shaky at best as Courtney's power of being a Mary Sue played heavily here. While for the Bad Guy Busters, it took center stage as the main theme of the episode, and the role all characters played was used to perfection. The Bad Guy Busters intro really brought out the fun of imagining yourself as a superhero when you were younger. It's more wholesome and the chaos that ensued was controlled very well and made following the plot easier. Still, the beginning was a slow start by the show standard, and seeing a man do taxes old school was completely unappealing. Both episodes were strong in their own way, but out of the two, I would say the Bad Guy Busters was the better episode here. I consider the Bad Guy Busters to be the best episode of Dramarama so far. The plot's growth was easy and pleasant to watch over time, and Izzy's role on the entire episode was what sealed the deal. While I'm glad Harold was getting a lot of time in Superhero, the inconsistencies and alliances and Courtney's OP abilities was the knock for it. Do you agree with the winner of this collision? What are your thoughts on each episode? You can discuss in the comments section below. If you would like to see more videos like this one and be one of the first to view it, click the subscribe and the bell icon to get the latest from me. Until then, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.